All right, let's dive right into this. You and I, we probably check our phones, our smartwatches, our computer screens, I don't know, dozens of times a day, usually in a mild state of panic because we're running late for something. But have you ever stopped to think about where this absolute obsession with time actually began? Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to travel way back, long before the digital age, to unpack the incredible engineering and natural history that took us from just guessing the hour by looking at shadows to literally measuring milliseconds.
So I want you to just take a second and imagine a world where hours and minutes simply do not exist. Seriously, how do we track time without clocks or watches or timers? Think about it. There's no alarm waking you up, no ding from the oven telling you dinner's ready. If you wanted to meet up with a friend, you basically just guessed and hoped they showed up. Our ancestors had to look elsewhere to organize their lives, and that sets the stage for our ancient, universal reliance on the sky above us.
For the vast majority of human history, our early timekeeping was completely dictated by one massive glowing clock in the sky. Yep, we lived by the sun. It was incredibly simple, but honestly, highly effective. Your day began the exact moment the sun peaked over the horizon, and it officially ended the second it set. For early humans and hunter-gatherers, this was totally fine. You woke up with the light, you hunted or foraged while you could actually see, and you went to sleep when it got dark. Nature was basically our ultimate, undeniable project manager.
But as you might guess, this system had one massive flaw. Days changed drastically with the seasons. A summer day stretches on forever, right? While a winter day is super short and fleeting. Because of this natural variation, there is absolutely no exact way to divide time equally. Imagine trying to coordinate a huge labor project if a quote-unquote day in July gave you twice as much working time as a day in December. Back then, an hour wasn't a fixed thing at all. It literally stretched and shrank depending on the time of year.
Well, as populations expanded and civilizations grew, people desperately needed a more accurate way to track time. We see this brilliantly in ancient Egypt. Think about it. They had to coordinate their agricultural seasons around the precise flooding of the Nile River and organize tens of thousands of workers for their massive, world-famous building projects. Just glancing up to see if the sun was kind of high or getting low just wasn't cutting it anymore. They needed a highly reliable system to keep their civilization running smoothly.
And this brings us to a real game changer, the sundial. It was our very first major innovation in timekeeping. By doing something as simple as placing sticks in the ground to track moving shadows, humans made this incredibly elegant leap in ingenuity. They took a basic fleeting shadow and turned it into a standardized scientific tool. Instead of just guessing, they took the ever-changing sunlight and gave it real mathematical structure right there on the ground. It completely revolutionized how society could plan out a single day.
So let's break down exactly how this worked. It is a highly effective three-step process. First, the sun moves predictably across the sky from east to west. Second, as a direct result of that, the shadow cast by the stick slowly sweeps across the ground in the complete opposite direction. And third, by marking the path of that moving shadow, people were finally able to divide the day into rough, but reliable, time periods. We successfully sliced daylight into manageable, trackable segments for the very first time in human history.
But here is the catch. What happens at night? Or during bad weather? That right there was the fatal flaw of the sundial. Think about it. What do you do when a massive rainstorm rolls in or you get a week of heavy cloud cover? Sundials only worked under perfect sunny conditions. The second the sun vanished, human timekeeping stopped completely dead in its tracks. You couldn't coordinate a night shift, and you certainly couldn't track hours during a dark winter storm.
Humanity quickly realized we needed a robust solution to keep time moving forward regardless of what the elements were doing. For a while, ancient societies tried using water clocks, basically measuring time by how fast water dripped out of a specific pot. But oops, water freezes in the winter. So to achieve true, unstoppable reliability, even without sunlight or flowing water, we had to invent something entirely new. We needed something mechanical.
And this brings us to a monumental leap in engineering. Early mechanical clocks were finally invented. But let me tell you, they weren't the delicate, quiet little things we know today. In fact, clocks were first installed in massive towers, built way up high into the sky. We're talking gigantic, clanging machines made of heavy iron gears and massive weights, towering over towns and visible from miles around. They were absolute marvels that fundamentally changed the architecture of our cities.
But why build them so incredibly high? Well, it was all about community synchronization. These mechanical marvels were placed at those towering heights so entire cities could hear and follow the time perfectly. For the first time ever, thousands of people were perfectly synced up. The baker, the blacksmith, the merchant, they were all suddenly operating on a standardized schedule driven completely by the rhythmic ringing of the city clock tower.
Of course, the momentum of innovation didn't just stop at the town square. Over time, clocks became smaller, more accurate, and portable. We started with those massive Era 1 tower clocks, but soon engineers figured out intricate Era 2 pocket clocks. Eventually, they became wristwatches strapped directly to our arms in Era 3. We literally moved from relying on a giant stone tower to carrying time itself right on our bodies.
And later, digital clocks inside phones and computers completely took over for Era 4. Bringing this right up to the modern day, it's actually staggering to realize our complete immersion in this technology. Today, clocks are absolutely everywhere. Look around. You probably have half a dozen within your field of vision right this second. On your wrist, your microwave, your laptop screen, your car dashboard, time is just constantly ticking away, quietly displayed on almost every single device we own.
In this constant presence means our modern world is entirely controlled by time. Look at these critical infrastructures. Everything from daily schedules to global transportation to modern technology relies on it. For example, global transportation, like the flight paths of airplanes or the shipping lanes of massive freighters, would instantly crash into chaos without precise synchronization. Fun fact, it was actually the invention of fast-moving trains in the 1800s that forced the world to finally adopt standardized time zones in the first place, just to avoid catastrophic collisions. And modern technology, like the GPS tracking in your smartphone, relies on strict timekeeping protocols, precise to the nanosecond, just to function at all. To really put this into perspective, they control almost every part of modern life. We have evolved from a species that just kind of roughly checked the position of the sun to see if it was afternoon, to a global civilization that measures milliseconds to execute high-speed financial trades.
Yet, when you strip away all the modern technology, the glowing screens, the atomic precision, the vast global networks, we reconnect right back with our ancient ancestors. Because despite all our brilliant world-changing advancements, it all started with a simple need:
to measure the movement of the sun more accurately. That core human desire to understand and organize our place in the universe, well, it hasn't changed in thousands of years. So the next time you glance down at your smartphone to check the time, ask yourself, is that highly advanced digital screen in your hand ultimately just a modern version of a stick placed in the sand? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the everyday things around you.